Long ago, in the days of King Solomon, a powerful and wise ruler sat on the throne of Israel. Word of his unmatched wisdom and wealth spread across nations, eventually reaching the ears of a mysterious queen from a distant land. Sheba was a land of gold, frankincense, and myrrh, a place where the scorching sun beat down on the endless desert sands, where the caravan routes hummed with the chatter of merchants, and the only law was the law of the jungle. Awestruck by his majestic presence and the splendor of his kingdom, she decided to test his wisdom with a series of riddles and questions, but Solomon proved equal to the task, answering each one correctly and even managing to stump her with a riddle of his own. Intrigued by their tales of a wise and generous king, she decided to pay him a visit. As the Queen of Sheba's legend grew, so did the mystery of her identity. Was she a mythical figure or a historical queen? Her enigmatic presence and mysterious motives continue to fascinate us, and her legacy lives on in books, movies, and works of art. Historians have struggled to separate fact from fiction, leaving us with more questions than answers. Assembling a massive convoy that stretched as far as the eye could see, complete with elephant riders, foot soldiers, and treasure-laden wagons, she set out on her journey. What was the true nature of their encounter, and what happened to her after she returned home? Rumors swirled around the Queen of Sheba, a legendary monarch who ruled with an iron fist and a heart of gold. However, the ancient texts provide no clear answers, leaving us to wonder about the truth of her existence. Some said she was as beautiful as the sunrise, while others claimed she possessed magical powers. One day, the queen received a delegation from Solomon's court, bearing gifts of ivory and apes. Upon her arrival in Jerusalem, she was greeted with a grand procession led by the one and only King Solomon. Overwhelmed by his wisdom, she gifted him with a massive fortune and turned back to her kingdom, forever changed by her encounter with the enigmatic king. Did she really exist? And if so, what was her story? And why did she embark on a perilous journey to meet King Solomon? Some believe that the Queen of Sheba was a real historical figure, while others argue that she was a product of folklore and mythology. What we do know is that the story of the Queen of Sheba has captured the imaginations of people for centuries. So what do you think? Was the Queen of Sheba a real historical figure or a figment of our collective imagination? In the ancient courts of history and myth, one name echoes with mystery: the Queen of Sheba. She appears in the Bible, the Quran, and Ethiopian legends as a woman of immense power, beauty, and intelligence. But who was she really? We do know that Sheba, or Saba, was a real kingdom known for its wealth and trade. The legendary Queen of Sheba's journey to the Temple of Solomon in Jerusalem is a tale as old as time. They point to the fact that she is mentioned in both the Bible and the Quran, two of the world's most important religious texts. Additionally, there are ancient coins and artifacts that bear her name and likeness. The tale of her journey to Solomon's temple is a reminder of the power of faith and the importance of wisdom. As we continue to search for answers about the origins of this legendary queen, one thing is certain: the Queen of Sheba will continue to capture the imaginations of people for generations to come. These physical pieces of evidence, they argue, prove that the Queen of Sheba was a real queen who ruled over a real kingdom. It's said that she arrived with a massive entourage and gifts of gold and precious stones. And while historians debate the historicity of her visit, there's no denying that the story has captured the imaginations of people for centuries. A real queen or a creation of legend? Proponents of this theory point to the fact that the biblical account of her visit to Solomon includes miraculous elements, such as the parting of the Red Sea. They also note that the Queen of Sheba is described as having supernatural powers, such as controlling the weather and healing the sick. According to Ethiopian tradition, The Queen of Sheba was the mother of King Solomon and the ancestor of the Solomonic dynasty, which ruled over Ethiopia for centuries. There are ancient Ethiopian manuscripts that tell the story of her visit, Solomon, and her subsequent return to Sheba, where she gave birth to their son. These miraculous elements, they argue, are evidence that the Queen of Sheba was not a historical figure, but rather a mythological one. The Queen of Sheba is mentioned in several religious texts, but is there any physical evidence that proves her personal existence? Some believe that the Queen of Sheba was a composite figure, a blend of real historical figures and mythical characters. However, others argue that the Queen of Sheba was indeed a real person. What's more, the story of the Queen of Sheba is not just a religious tale. It's also an important part of Ethiopian history and culture. Whether or not the Queen of Sheba was a real historical figure, her story continues to inspire awe and wonder. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe for more fascinating historical tales. Did you know that the richest man in history is 100 times richer than Jeff Bezos? And today, let's find out what happened to King Solomon's insane wealth. King Solomon was the second king of Israel. He inherited a kingdom in turmoil. His father, King David, had expanded the territory of Israel and made Jerusalem its capital. Oh, magnify your word toward me according to your promise. May it please you, O Lord God, that you may establish a word which you have said, for you have spoken. Why didn't Solomon leave anything behind? Well, you have to understand that most of what we know about Solomon came from the writings of his enemies. When you read the Quran or the writings of the Quran, Solomon is always portrayed as a great leader, a wise leader, but never as a rich leader. The reason for this is because the Quran actually says that Solomon was a good leader, a righteous leader, unlike other kings of Israel who led their people astray. And I am like unto no man who can do you any good. That's why it disappeared when Solomon died. They say that only 10% of the gold still remains. But that's not true. We know that the Shema, which was built with some of the gold, still stands today. In fact, archaeologists found some pieces of gold that were stamped with the inscription of Solomon. And as for all the works of this day, and all the root, the children of Israel called it a day in tithing, for they brought an oblation to the Lord, and they blessed the Lord God of Israel, saying, Blessed be the Lord who has given rest to his people Israel, just as he promised, but he also amassed a huge debt in the process. But we must understand that the Bible is a book of history. It is the oldest book in the world. Everything in the Bible happened at a specific time and place. There are names, locations, dates, and people mentioned in the Bible that can be verified. The Bible is not a fairy tale. It's not a myth. It's reality. And when Solomon took over, he had to deal with the kingdom's financial problems. So where did Solomon get all his money? Apart from the wealth he got from his father, he received an immense amount of gold from God. According to 2 Chronicles 1, verses 11 to 12, God appeared to Solomon in a dream and asked him how he would like to be rewarded. And God said to him, Ask for yourself whatever you desire, and I will do it for you. So Solomon answered, You have acted with wisdom toward your servant David, my father, and raised up my kingdom before me, and established it. And now, O Lord God, let the word be established now concerning you which you have said. For you have spoken, and I am likened, I hope, to no one so great as David, my father. For I am but a young man, and all your works and this great kingdom you have established, and to me you have given a kingdom by succession after me. And here it is about to be established. O Lord God, let it please you to show yourself strong on my behalf, and do it. A lot of people believe that this story is not true, that it never happened. But some people say that if this story is true, why doesn't everybody know about it? Some people also believe that all the gold Solomon received from God was an illusion. What do you think about this story? Let me know in the comments below. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. See you in the next one. Have you ever wondered what it would look like if a great and powerful king fell from grace? Welcome to my channel. Most people know the story of King Solomon from the Bible. He was the son of King David and the most powerful king in Israel's history. When he started his reign, he was wise and faithful to God. But as time went on, he married many foreign women. These women led him to worship false gods and make idols. This made God very angry. He warned Solomon that he would tear the kingdom away from him after his death. Though Solomon kept his throne during his lifetime, it did not happen overnight. It was the result of years of bad decisions. However, it was also the result of God's grace. He gave Solomon many chances to turn back to him, but he did not take them. In the end, Solomon's fall was his own fault. He chose to follow false gods instead of the true God. He chose to build idols instead of worshipping God. His legacy crumbled after he died. Solomon listened to the advice of his wives and followed their gods. This led him down a path of sin and destruction. Second, we must be careful what we worship. Solomon worshipped false gods and built idols. This made God very angry and caused him to lose his kingdom. Third, we must remember that God is just. He will punish those who sin and disobey him. Solomon was a great king, but he sinned like any other person. God punished him according to his sins. In this episode, we will look at the rise and fall of King Solomon. Let's start with the rise. Solomon became the king of Israel when his father, King David, died. At this time, Israel was the most powerful nation in the Middle East. It had a strong army and economy. The people were proud and confident. They believed that their greatness would last forever. However, this was not the case. After King Solomon took the throne, he began to drift away from God. He started by marrying foreign women. These women were from different cultures and religions. He told Solomon that he would tear the kingdom away from him and give it to one of his servants. However, he would not do this during Solomon's lifetime. He would wait until Solomon's son became king. This prophecy came true when Solomon's son, Rehoboam, became king. The people of Israel were no longer under his control. They broke away from his rule and formed their own kingdoms. This was the end of Solomon's dynasty. They brought their gods and goddesses into Solomon's life. He began to worship these false gods instead of the true God. He also built idols and images for these gods. This made God very angry. He sent prophets to warn Solomon, but he did not listen. One day, God spoke to Solomon through the prophet. However, it was not the end of Israel as a nation. There were still people who followed God. They continued to worship him and obey his laws. As we have seen, Solomon's fall from grace was a slow process. What can we learn from Solomon's story? First, we must be careful who we listen to. So remember, stay away from sin and always choose God. That's all for today. See you next time.